On today's episode of Homeworthy, we visit producer, collector, and vintage LA founder Alison Martino in her fabulous West Hollywood apartment. An unforgettable space brimming with memorabilia that celebrates the rich history of Los Angeles.
This door knocker right here used to belong to Frank Sinatra.
Blending glamorous 1960s style with collectibles from every decade, Alison has curated a home full of fascinating finds. From a gallery wall of old Hollywood icons and rock and roll legends to a cabinet packed with mementos from long-gone Los Angeles institutions. Every corner reflects her deep love for the city she calls home. Among the most personal items is a remarkable keepsake from her father's cinematic career.
This is my father's original Godfather script, and I've only seen one or two of these in existence.
She also shares a playful glimpse into her father's love life.
He actually dated Marilyn Monroe for a minute. Sorry, Mom.
Alison walks us through vintage pieces she inherited from her fashionable mother.
So my mom said the reason she picked being an American Airlines stewardess is because she liked their hats, okay? She liked their hats.
From Hollywood history to family heirlooms, Alison's home is a vibrant celebration of the people, places, and stories that make Los Angeles truly remarkable. And as Alison says of her collecting,
it never ends. It never, ever, ever, ever ends.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
Hello, Homeworthy. It's Alison Martino. Come on into my pad in West Hollywood. Come check it out. Hi, I'm Alison Martino, and I'm an on-air news anchor, and I also created a community called Vintage Los Angeles. Welcome to my home here in West Hollywood. So I've always been enamored with the building I live in, and it was designed by an architect named Dan Dworsky, who I was familiar with. And I used to come here as a little girl because my parents had friends that lived here, and I always wanted to live here because it felt like kind of like family affair. And so I liked it also because it had a lot of wall space, and I had a lot of collections and a lot of things on the walls, and I just felt this was the perfect place to hang all that. So when I first moved here, I thought, okay, what am I gonna do with this place? I have a lot of Hollywood history, but I also love furniture, and I also love vintage pieces. So my hero is Jonathan Adler because he reminds me of the furniture I sort of grew up with in the 70s. My parents' friends had furniture like that, and so I took him as inspiration. He's been an inspiration to me since like 2000. And so a lot of his pieces are in here, but I like to mix it with vintage pieces, a lot of memorabilia from my family and stuff I've collected. So I really wanted it to look kind of like a lived-in space, but a little museum-ish. So when people came in, they could actually look around and see pieces, and I could explain what they are. And it's just a place I feel comfortable in. It's how I envisioned it, and it took me about 5 or 6 years to get here. I am done. No, there's no way I'm done. But I say to myself, I'm done. So this is my hallway. This is what you see when you walk in. I love pop art. So this is my pop art display and homage. This is a lithograph that Andy Warhol did, and my Keith Haring. This actually belonged to Hugh Hefner and Robert Indiana. And so come on in. I love lucite. My favorite artist of all time is Ed Ruscha, so I'm very, very proud of this piece that he created for LACMA last year. Speaking of Hugh Hefner, this is a shadow box that was created for one of his Playboy covers. And I won this at an auction last year, and I just love it. Look at the little jean outfit. In fact, do you want to see the cover? See this magazine? See this little bunny? That bunny? That is that bunny. It's amazing that survived all those years. Another thing I'm obsessed with is wallpaper. So I just had this wallpaper put in, and I feel like it kind of goes with the pop art. Okay, you want to see what's in the closet? Because you know there's vintage stuff in the closet too. But it's closed this time. So in my closet here, for example, so my mother, she was an American Airlines stewardess in the 60s, and these are her American Airlines stewardess dresses. Look how little they are. They're so small. And this was just some of her, she would serve, coffee, tea, or me in this. American Airlines, look at the logo. One of my favorite pieces of my mother's is this bolero jacket. Oh my God, I do wear it sometimes. And this is kind of fun too. I just picked up this piece. Look at this amazing ensemble from the 70s. Look at the flowers on the back. I should have worn this today. What I love about vintage clothing is it's timeless, and they actually don't make stuff like this anymore. I would like you to take a look at this, for example. I wish you could feel the velvet on this. This is truly incredible. I also love the labels inside the vintage clothing, because sometimes it's labels I haven't heard of. Today I feel like we know all of the designers, which is great, but like sometimes I'll go into a vintage shop and I'll see something like this and I don't know what that is, and I learn a lot about old designers. For example, another one I really do love though is my mother eloped with my dad and they eloped to Mexico, and this is what she wore. And for all you vintage lovers out there, this is from Saks Fifth Avenue. That's another thing that's amazing about vintage clothes, is seeing these labels that we do know, like Saks Fifth Avenue. I still have my roller skates, come on, Xanadu. This is another one of my mother's beautiful, beautiful gowns. After my mom gave birth to me, this is what she left wearing. And my mother's stewardess hats. So my mom said the reason she picked being an American Airlines stewardess is because she liked their hats, okay? She liked their hats. And I still have my lunchbox from when I was a kid, my Partridge Family lunchbox. I love Palm Springs. I love the vintage shops out there. I love all the antique stores and the consignment shops. So a lot of my pieces are unique. My friend Charles Phoenix always told me, buy something with a story behind it. And I have been doing that for many years. And again, it's just a great space to display my memorabilia and collections that I've been collecting since I was a little girl. There's a few pieces in my house that are kind of Rat Pack related. I have Frank Sinatra's door handle that says the Sinatras, that was in his house in Palm Desert. I have a stereo that belonged to Sammy Davis Jr. and he's got a plaque on there. And I love movie-related items. I have a box that used to belong to Robert Evans, who was chief of Paramount Pictures. I have a signed Valley of the Dolls record by all three actresses. I have two Margaret Keane paintings that I'm quite proud of. Well, one's an original, one's not, but it's lithograph, and I had her sign that, and that is a very special piece to me. I have to look around. My gallery wall behind me, I'm really kind of proud of. I've been collecting photography from some of my favorite photographers for 30 years, so that's behind me. But I have a lot of stuff that's LA related. When I was a kid, I would go to restaurants with my parents. None of these restaurants exist anymore, but maybe I would take a matchbook as a memento or a menu, and I've been collecting that stuff for years. But I never wanted my place to look too hoarderish or too many things that you couldn't see past stuff. So I have sections in the house where things are. So a lot of the memorabilia is in my office. The gallery wall is sort of where the photography is. My living room is more like where my Jonathan Adler pieces are in my collections from Palm Springs. I try to divide it up. But what I love about this space is it's an open floor plan. It's built in 1965, which was a sort of a new mid-century modern era. And it was a great space. It's a great space for entertaining. And it's also a great space to see everything on the walls. So now we're walking into my space here. Now this is a big open floor plan, so this is sort of like the entryway, kind of coming into the living room. This is my gallery wall, which I've been collecting photography for years. And some of my favorite people are on this wall. I love Goldie Hawn, because who doesn't want a picture of Goldie Hawn in their house? Another photo that I love is my signed Rat Pack photo by all four Rat Packers. And of course I love Warren Beatty, I love the Doors. This is signed by Paul McCartney. This was the very first Doors album cover that didn't get approved, but I had Guy Webster give me a copy of it, so that is pretty cool to have. And the Beatles, Sharon Tate. I used to work for Henry Diltz, so I absolutely love having his photography on my wall as well. So that's my photography wall. And behind me, I don't want to forget to show you some really cool items. This door knocker right here used to belong to Frank Sinatra, and I got that through a great vintage store in Palm Springs called Ada's, and the guy that works there, his mother used to work for Frank. So I got this, and look, it says the Sinatras on it, okay? This is Jim Rockford's belt buckle. Yes, that is James Gardner's belt buckle from the Rockford Files. And Suzanne Plachette from Newhart, that we all love Suzanne Plachette. She used to live in this building, and this was her plaque. And this is a plaque that was for Elvis Presley when he had a Stutz car, and this was a plaque inside that car. And I love my Bond table, created by Jonathan Adler. I just love this burlwood so much. One of my favorite pieces is this clock. And this is a Hamilton clock, Aurora clock. And it was created in the 70s. It's actually in the Museum of Art. It's kind of a hard clock to get, but that's one of my favorite pieces. And I think it really goes with this Agam artwork so well. And I love Robert Indiana, and I love Lichtenstein. And so these are two pieces by them. And this desk belonged to Don Rickles, okay? How cool is that? And this was a box that it came with, and it says Barbara and Don on it. So I keep it right here. And I got a little Don Rickles little tchotchke there, the space. Yep, hockey puck. Anyone remember that? So that's the section here. And over here are some inserts that I really love. And my condo kind of came like this, but I opened them up a little bit more. And I originally was gonna put doors on them and put books inside, you know, because you need storage. But I had these sculptures, and I thought, not bad, right? So added some light, and I really love this feature. So this piece used to be in the lobby of A&M Records during the 60s, you know, big record company. So it's obviously in the shape of an instrument, a guitar, a mandolin. I wish I could play it. So this seating area, because I love an Eames chair, because this is where I read and pretty much like relax. So I suggest that everyone get an Eames chair, because it is the most comfortable chair in the world. If I sit in it right now, I'll never get up, so I need to keep moving. And again, this is a nice wall for artwork. And this is a vintage piece from 1973 that I love. I love abstract artwork. And this lamp right here, I got in Venice, Italy. And when I saw it, it had to come home with me. This was my father's piano, but there's actually a really cool story behind this, because it used to belong to Joey Bishop. Joey Bishop, another Rat Packer, had a TV show in the 60s. He had his own talk show, and this is that piano from that show. And I do play a little bit, but I use it more for a display of like more stuff. What I love about putting the piano right here by the window is to have all this colored glass, and these are all vintage pieces. Almost everything here is vintage. So when the sun comes in, all of this colored glass sort of makes like a rainbow, and it's just really, really pretty to see that. So that's why there's a lot of different colored glass here. And a lot of these pieces I've been collecting for 20 years at different vintage shops, and there's just a lot of color. I love color. This is another favorite piece. This is from the Beverly Hills Luau. This was owned by Steve Crane, who was married to Lana Turner. I'm obsessed with that sun. That was designed by Tony Duquette, and I'm just so lucky to have it. I got it at an estate sale for Tony Duquette, stuff that he wasn't using anymore. So that's kind of amazing. And this is sort of like the middle of the condo, this wall that we put an insert here and cut this out so you could see through it, and it kind of separates the rooms without a big, huge wall up. I just didn't want a wall here. I wanted it to be open. So now it's nice and open. You know, in the 60s, they used to have like the conversation pit that you step down into. Well, mine you step up into. So this is sort of the conversation area, the TV room, and kind of like where we relax. This couch behind me is from Grace Home. The pillows are obviously Jonathan Adler. Everything else basically is Jonathan Adler that you can sit on in this room. This piece, these two chairs, the pillows, and a lot of vintage pieces sort of throughout. And this is a Jonathan Adler piece too. I'm obsessed with that lamp, which is by Curtis Duray. That was done in the 60s. It's kind of a pain in the ass to get the light bulbs in and out of, but I'm obsessed with it. So I love art. I love vintage art. This is another one of my favorite pieces here. Love her so much. But I kind of got lucky with these shelves when I moved in, because they were big enough and they were deep enough to put not just books in, but a lot of tchotchkes and collectibles and things like that, things from my childhood. I mean, I obviously have a lot of books, but it kind of goes on, which is really nice, and it kind of moves over here and over here, which is more books and more fun collectibles, is behind me a stereo that belonged to Sammy Davis Jr., another Rat Packer. So this stereo was given to Sammy in 1972 by General Electric. And these are the prototype speakers that came with that stereo. I've never seen those speakers in any other colors but that color. So I don't know why he gave it up, but it's mine now. This is one of those pieces they say, like, oh my gosh, if you had to like grab one thing out of your house in an emergency. I'm obsessed with this. And this painting is actually the original of that Jose Cuervo ad from 1968. But look at this frame. I mean, look at this frame. You cannot find a frame like this. It just frames her so perfectly. And isn't she gorge? And another thing I do love about the shelves, when I just got lucky, is that the shelves are deep, so you can push a lot of things in it, not just books. But again, I love to collect things of pop culture. Here's an interesting piece. This I got at an estate sale it was Liberace's manager. Now, I picked this up for $6. When I got home, on the back, it was an inscription from Liberace. Stuff like that blows my mind. And then these are my collectible ashtrays we have Bob Hope, Maury Amsterdam, Jerry Lewis, and Keely Smith. So when I first got this place, I thought, what am I going to do for a rug? Because, you know, I was thinking white shag. I don't know, but I've always been obsessed with David Hicks. He's probably my favorite designer. And so I tracked down some David Hicks carpet. I'm sure you'll recognize that shape. The Shining. This is the same design in the Overlook Hotel in The Shining by David Hicks. So in the Milo Bogman piece are two pieces that are really special to me. And this box right here belonged to producer Robert Evans, who was chief of Paramount at the time in the 70s. This is a Capitol Records vintage ashtray, probably from the late 50s. And my dad had this because he was a recording artist for many, many years on the label, and luckily kept this, and now I have it. When people come into my home, I hope that they take something home with them, that they learned maybe something about an artist they didn't know about, or they learned something about Los Angeles they didn't know about. But I have one area of my house where I have a lot of mementos from old LA restaurants and stores. And when I have people who are in my life that have lived here long enough, they get quite emotional when they see that stuff. And it brings back a lot of memories, and it happens every time. Anyone that knows LA anyone who knows LA well enough will come in here and go, oh my God, I used to go there when I was a kid, and I remember that, or I had a birthday there, or my parents met there. That's the most exciting part. I mean, there's a lot of great collectibles that I've gotten in vintage shops, but it's the LA memorabilia and the LA mementos from places that don't exist anymore that I think tug at the heartstrings and make us feel a little more connected to our past. And now we're going to step down into the dining room, and this piece right here, this dining set, is by Charles Hollis, who is very known for lucite, and of course the Philip Stark chairs. Oh, and behind me, see this really, really cool cat? That used to belong to Zsa Zsa Gabor. And then, because this is one big open room, it's really nice to have the step up because it kind of separates both rooms, even though this is one big massive room, so you can actually sit here and eat and watch TV, which I really, really like about that. And over here is another Jonathan Adler piece, some artwork on the wall. This is an original Margaret Keane that I purchased at her gallery in San Francisco several years ago. And I also got this one over here. This is one of her most famous Margaret Keanes. And if you don't know who Margaret Keane is, I suggest watching the movie Big Eyes. But I did get her to sign it. So it's not an original, it is a lithograph, but I love it. If there was ever an emergency and I had to run out of here, this would probably be one of the pieces too. But the most important area, probably of this whole tour, is this cabinet over here. Now, in this cabinet are very special things, one-of-a-kind things. Nobody has this stuff. Most everything in this cabinet is LA history related, and a lot of these places don't exist anymore. I think there's like 2 that are still in existence, one being the Whiskey A Go-Go. But there's some really amazing pieces in here. My favorite is this candle that belonged to Dean Martin. Another Rat Pack figure. This sign behind me used to belong to the Nikki Blair's restaurant on Sunset Strip. And how about this? My mother's original Elvis Presley fan club card. This is a keychain from Tower Records. This was a stamp Elizabeth Taylor used to use to send out fan mail. This belonged to Jerry Lewis. This was a cup from the Sonny and Cher show. There's even like little tiny sugar cubes from like restaurants like the Brown Derby. And this belonged to Jerry Lewis. Matchbooks from the Sinatra house. And a lot of this stuff up here are ashtrays of defunct restaurants and clubs. The Hamburger Hamlet, the Nicodale, the Cock and Bull, Sneaky Pete's, Ciro's, Dino's Lodge, and a Garden of Allah, one of my most prized possessions. And up here are plates. And what's amazing is when my mother gave birth to me, she had her baby shower at a place called the Bistro. And that bottle she got at my baby shower for me, and she took it that day. I don't know how the water is still in it, okay? But anyway, you could have a field day with all this stuff. This is a lifelong collection. You do not collect this stuff overnight. This is stuff that I've been collecting since I was literally 6 or 7 years old. This is a Curtis Duray mirror, who is the same designer that did the Curtis Duray lamp I showed you earlier. And this was my father's chair. He was born in Philadelphia, and when he came out to LA, he brought this chair with him. It used to be red velvet and dark wood, but I had it reupholstered. Jonathan Adler, of course, and put some white lacquer on it, and it's brand new again. And my favorite photo of myself at the world famous Stahl House up in the Hollywood Hills. I am actually born in Los Angeles. I know that's kind of rare. And being here for as long as I have, I saw so many changes in LA, and I got sentimental about it. So I started to create sort of a community called Vintage Los Angeles, where everybody could get on as an online community and talk about things that we miss. But I didn't realize it would end up being a full-time job for me. So I've been doing this for 15 years, but prior to that, I was a television producer. I produced a show called Mysteries and Scandals that was about the golden age of Hollywood. So it kind of eased me into it. I've always had a love for Hollywood history, and I'm really grateful that I'm able to have an online community where we can discuss Los Angeles history and architecture and fashion and all kinds of things. And some of those things are in this house. People don't give LA enough credit for history, and I think that's because they think of just Hollywood for some reason, and there's so much more to LA. LA is a huge metropolis. There's so many sections of Los Angeles, but also it's Los Angeles history as well that gets neglected. Not just, it's a lot about Hollywood. So when I created Vintage Los Angeles, I made sure to just say Vintage Los Angeles, because I love architecture. I love restaurants. I love theme parks. I love the coast. I love driving through neighborhoods and looking at different houses. And I think that LA needs to appreciate, though, what they have and stop knocking everything down. That's the problem that we have. So continuing from the gallery wall, it sort of kind of continues into this hallway over here, where I have my movie posters. I'm really into collecting movie posters. So here are several of them. And I also have a beautiful photo of Marilyn Monroe from the 60s. Butterflies Are Free, There's a Girl in My Soup, The Party, Salt and Pepper, of course, Riot on Sunset Strip, and Columbo, and Nancy Sinatra and Elvis Presley, and more Nancy Sinatra. But I love vintage movie posters, especially from the 60s, because the artwork, not just because I love the movies too, but I really love the artwork, and I feel like it kind of expresses the love I have for that era. So I think another way to sort of elevate your space is your doors. These used to be just white, plain doors, but I had them carved, and I sort of took influence by like the old Bette Davis movies and Joan Crawford movies, the Hollywood Regency look. So they're actually in the Beverly Hills Hotel. You can see them in the bathrooms. So I had these just done, and I feel like they really elevated the space. So come on into my office. So now we're in the office, so there's a lot of stuff in here, and this is again where I pull a lot of inspiration. But there's also a lot of childhood memories in here, and sort of like I have a gallery wall of my family and photos that my dad and mom collected through the years that I'm so happy to have right now and putting them in here. So my mother was an airline stewardess for American Airlines, and she was the poster for American Airlines. And my dad, probably, I'm sure you've seen The Godfather, was Johnny Fontaine in The Godfather, Al Martino. He actually dated Marilyn Monroe for a minute. Sorry, Mom. Mom got him anyway. And these are just some photos, like when my dad played the Sands Hotel, my dad with the Three Stooges. There's my mom and dad and some of the handbills from when he played Vegas and Lake Tahoe. And this is a photo of when he met everyone from The Godfather and they cast him in the film. I would have to also, that's a very old photo of my dad and me, and I'll tell you why I have that picture up, because this is one of my dad's record covers, but I ended up on the back of it when I was like 5. It was a total surprise to me, and when this record came out, Capitol Records gave us that picture with it, so I've had that for a really long time. And these are my dad's, gold records and silver records, or whatever you want to call them. Record companies would give that out when you hit a certain amount of sales. So luckily, my dad wasn't much of a collector. I found these like in storage. So I pulled them out and put them up because they're inspiring to me. This is from the old Palm restaurant that was on Santa Monica Boulevard. I don't know if you remember, with all the faces on them. And these are some of the faces. I helped them pull all the faces off of the walls, and we gave them back to the celebrities. These are the ones I ended up with, so I'm kind of happy with that. In here, this is a really cool thing in this closet that I did not expect this condo to have. But when I opened these doors up, I realized these are record slats. They actually survived all these years. This is where people put their records, because this was built in 1965, so that would have been the era that everyone was like stacking up their record collection. So that's where I keep my records. I'm also pretty happy I have pretty good storage space in this place, because I have a lot of stuff that isn't displayed that is behind closet walls, like this room. Like I said, most everything you pick up in here has a story. One of my favorite things too, this used to belong to Liberace, this used to belong to Don Rickles, this belonged to Jerry Lewis. There's a lot of fun things like that, but I also have something here that's like really, really precious and personal, and I am gonna bring it out for Homeworthy, because why not? But this is my father's original Godfather script, and I've only seen 1 or 2 of these in existence. Okay, there's some handwritten notes on here. Let me show you that. What's amazing about this script is I hardly go through it because it's so valuable, but there's some of their handwritten notes during my dad's scene with Don Corleone, Marlon Brando. This is an original Hirschfeld, and this is my dad. He got in one. I'll let you guys decide if you can figure out who everybody else is. And another prized possession is this record cover signed by all actresses from Valley of the Dolls: Barbara Parkins, Sharon Tate, and Patty Duke. This is a big one. And then this was when the Kid Stays in the Picture cartoon came out. Robert Evans approved this to be his character, and I got the original at an auction. That NBC sign up there was the original first NBC logo ever done on camera. It was back in the 40s and 50s when they pushed the camera into the television. They would put that sign like on an easel, and then the camera would push into it, and you'd see the very first NBC commercial, and that was the original art. And that was given to me by somebody very dear to me. And this is an interesting piece too, because Dad and the Beatles were on the same label, Capitol Records, and when the butcher cover had to be replaced, the Beatles wanted to, they wanted to proof this. This came out on the same proof as one of my dad's records, and there's only one in existence. And this is from the TV show Mannix, and I got this at Mike Connor's estate sale. Estate sales are really good to find collectibles. So now this cabinet's like an explosion of my brain. So like everything I kind of grew up with is here. I guess I just never threw anything away. I don't know if it's like an only child thing, but I collected a lot of stuff, and I just never threw anything away, and I thought this was like a really cool display cabinet to put them in. And actually this I got at an auction recently, because I'm such a big fan of James Gardner. This was in his trailer for the Rockford Files. A really, really rare item that I have that it's like so worth taking out to show you is this Johnny Carson mug. You're probably like, what's the big deal? It's just a mug with Johnny Carson's name on it. Well, actually it has Burbank Studios written on the back. This was one of the mugs Johnny used on his talk show. Collecting is not really about the value of something or how much something costs, or I find that it's about rarity and something being scarce. And sometimes there's only one of something or two of something. I mean, I find this little pin from my favorite store, Heaven, very valuable to me. I've never seen another one, so I'm so happy I have things like that. I collected a lot of my mom was an American Airlines stewardess, so I have a lot of her, like her little keychains and coin change from the back in the day. I love the Beatles, so I collect a lot of old Beatles memorabilia and pop culture memorabilia. It never ends. It never, ever, ever, ever ends. I also collect a lot of matchbooks from defunct restaurants and places in LA. I use these display cabinets that I guess they're for coins, but I use them for old matchbooks. So I have several of those that never ends. See, matchbook collection will never end. It can go on and on and on. A collector is never finished. A collector is never finished. So you can't say to a collector you're finished. It doesn't exist. So this Danish piece right here is vintage. This is a Barcelona chair, which I think is always classic with any mid-century design. And this cabinet I had made a long, long time ago because I wanted it to look like a TV. And so it's kind of like that 50s mid-century look. And that's kind of where I put all my equipment for TV and stuff. Hidden away in there. I don't want to see wires. I know everyone likes to see powder rooms, so I'll show you this one. Now this is kind of fun. Again, I have David Hicks wallpaper that has like mylar on it. That's why it's very, very shiny. But I call this the Gabor Doris Day bathroom because the pieces in here actually belong to those actresses. This piece belonged to Doris Day, this belonged to Zsa Zsa Gabor, and this one belonged to her sister Ava. A lot of people ask me if I could travel back in time, where would I go, and what decade would I go, and what place would I go? Well, I've been having a fascination with the 1930s. I would love to go back to the 1930s, but I would choose probably the 60s. And that's because I did live through the 70s and the 80s. I think there was a lot of layover from the 60s that went into the 70s that I missed. And I love that aesthetic, and I love flower power, and I love bohemian lifestyle. So Laurel Canyon in the 60s, I'd probably just park it right there. My favorite thing about this home, I love living in West Hollywood, but I love, like I said, I love the open floor plan here. That is my favorite part of my home, is being able to walk from room to room. Because I do have so much stuff, I feel in smaller rooms, it would make the place look a little overdone. But since the ceilings are high and the floor plan is open, I feel like it's just a big, huge open space, and that's my favorite part about living here. This is my little secret door. This is why I like to put wallpaper on an entire wall, including the door. So it's like this seamless wall. So again, more David Hicks wallpaper. The pillows are Jonathan Adler. The rug is Jonathan Adler. I love color. I love blues. I love color. I would have done this whole room with this wallpaper, but I stopped at one wall. One of the great things about estate sales is sometimes you'll find that one-of-a-kind item that you're like, that I have to have. This I fell for hard. I love this. I want to have this outfit made. But I found out that this was actually hung up in a factory for Lubella clothing from the 70s, and this was in the office. What home means to me is comfort and cozy. I have to be cozy. I'm actually here a lot. A lot of people think I'm never home. I am home a lot. I like a big, huge couch. I like to lay down. I do all my work on my computer, on my lap. But I like to be, I like aesthetic. I like to see beauty. It's just something I do. I'm kind of a neat freak, so I don't even like, a towel that's out. I always have to put it back. I'm kind of happy that I live in a place where I feel like I can put things away really quickly. And I don't have a lot of clutter, even though there's a lot of stuff here. But I'm proud of where I live, and I'm proud of what I've put together. I'm proud of what I've collected because I feel that the artifacts I've collected are important, and I feel one day I'll probably hand them down to, I don't know, maybe a museum or another collector, or hopefully they'll be preserved in a library. But for now they're here. I like looking at them. They inspire me. As an LA historian, I kind of have to have it all around me to be inspired every day. Well, thank you, Homeworthy. I'm so glad that I could bring you in and tour you my home. But you know what? I gotta go. You've taken up a lot of my time. I gotta go report now. Bye.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to go to homeworthy.com for exclusive content, shopping guides, and so much more.